I have heard from many students of mine who really want to start sounding a little more natural and more native when they speak in English. The person that they speak to the most, it's easy for them to pick up their English, but they get into difficulty when it comes to listening to other English speakers. Today, let's talk about some of the ways that you can improve your speaking and listening to sound more natural and native. Are you ready? Then let's get into it. One of the good ways to make English sound a little more natural is by using reduced forms. This is where you're going to cut down on the word to make it easier to pronounce. For example, want to becomes wanna, as in, I wanna watch the basketball game, or I wanna go back to Los Angeles for the next vacation. Of course, saying I want to go back to Los Angeles on the next vacation is not wrong, but it just doesn't have the same smooth, natural flow to it. Another reduced form is going to. For example, I am going to get ready for dinner becomes reduced to I'm gonna get ready for dinner, which just has a more natural feel to it. Even if you don't use them yourself, it will help you pick up on natural sounding English by looking out for and using reduced forms. The next time someone asks you a question, how about responding with, I don't know. I don't know, instead of, I don't know. When speaking fast, native speakers often run things together, and that's where you're going to get these reduced forms. Have you heard any of these before? Another one is gotta instead of got to. Native speakers, especially when speaking casually, tend to shorten or push words and phrases together, and I'm sure you have something similar in your native language, so make sure to be on the lookout for it when using English. The next thing you can do to speak English more fluently or understand native speakers is to ignore filler words when you're listening and perhaps use some filler words when you're speaking. Here is an example of the filler word well, which can be used in a few different ways. The first use is we can use it to show that we are thinking. For example, well, I guess 2 p.m. would be a good time to meet. Or we can use well to add a pause when we are speaking. For example, peanut butter and jelly go together like, well, peanut butter and jelly. And you could even use well to stall or delay time. Well, okay, I'll let you borrow the money this time. These sentences all use the word well, but they don't affect the overall meaning of the sentences. If I was to take well out of those sentences, they would still have the same meaning, but by adding well, it just gives them an overall more natural sounding feel to them. Here are a list of some more words that can be used for filler. Like, basically, you know, I see. I mean, these are just a few of the words that you can use because there are so many words that can be used for filler. Maybe that will be a separate video if that's something that you're interested for, and you let me know down in the comments below. And the most important thing to remember is that filler words are something that you can use when casually speaking English, but it's not really something that you want to use too much when you're going to be doing written English. They are words that use to show what you are thinking, to make something sound softer, to make your point a little stronger or weaker, to stall for time, or to include the listener in the conversation without actually stopping your conversation. So listening for these filler words will make you a better English listener. Also, if you can add filler words to your conversation from time to time, you're going to sound more natural and become a better English speaker as well. Another way to sound more like a native speaker or to pick up on native sounding English is by understanding and using contractions. Contractions are a way to speed up your speech by combining words. Most native speakers use them, and it makes for a much more natural, smooth sounding English. Instead of saying I am, I would just say I'm. I'm going to the store, or I'm gonna be late. You can also use I'll instead of I will. I'll be there or I'll think about it are a couple of good examples. Most speakers would use don't instead of do not, unless you really want to emphasize something. If you really want to stress something important, you might say, do not forget to turn the heater off when you leave the house. But in most casual situations, don't would be okay. Don't do that, or don't worry about it, for example. Another couple of contractions you might hear are I have, which becomes I've, and I would, which becomes I'd. I have been thinking about that a lot lately can be said, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. The most important thing to remember is that contractions are combining speech to make it more faster, and it also just sounds more natural. The next thing you can do is pay attention to the stress on a word or words. Stress and the tone of your voice are very important when speaking in English. Changes in intonation, slowing down, raising my voice are all different ways that I can use to show how important a word or phrase might be. This is a way for native speakers to highlight words or highlight phrases that they think are important for you to pay attention to. So next time you're in a conversation, really pay attention, go into it with open ears, listening for the way stresses are being put on certain words. And see if you can pick out what the speaker feels is important when they're talking to you next time. Slang is another important way to show how much you understand the English language. And even if you don't end up using slang yourself, most people do use slang in their speech. Depending on the country that you're in, the age group, the area of the country that you're in, slang will change. So you really have to pay attention to the people that you're around to find out what is the latest being used. Slang is something you really have to pay attention to because I'm sure in your native country as well, a lot of people use a lot of different types of slang in different situations. I remember when I first started learning Japanese, and the way I was learning in a textbook and what I would hear when I went outside was completely different. So really pick up on the slang and pay attention to how real people speak. The last thing we'll talk about today are idioms, which are phrases that have different meanings than those individual words would have alone. And you'll find that many native speakers do use them in everyday conversation. For example, under the weather, which means I'm not feeling too well, I feel a little sick. If there's a big problem that needs to be talked about, you can use the elephant in the room. Walk on eggshells is another idiom that means to be very careful of your actions and words. These are just a few examples, of course, but native speakers use lots of idioms in their everyday speech. It is a way to show your unique personality. You may never use them yourself, but they're good to know so that you can check for them when you're in conversations with native speakers. There are too many to put in this video today, but definitely look into adding some idioms to your everyday conversation. We talked about so many things here today. I hope that one of them or all of them will be able to help you with their English study. If you got any benefit, how about share this with somebody that you think would like it? Also, leave a like down below. If you're interested in learning any more English, how about check out this video that should be popping up on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to see you in the next video. See you.